My grandmother fell in love with a young man, and then we lost our house, and our life turned into chaos. Honestly, I don't even know why I'm writing this. Maybe I'm hoping that someone here will understand me or at least laugh at all the craziness that I call my life. As of today, I have no home and no hope. But let's start from the beginning. My name is Adam, I'm 31. Over the past 6 months, my life has completely fallen apart. I lost my job in March, my girlfriend left me in April, and by May, I had moved back into my family home in Pittsburgh with my parents. I hoped it would only be temporary until I could get back on my feet. But now, even that home is gone. My grandmother, who's 75, signed it over as a gift to some guy who's barely older than me. It all happened so fast, I still can't believe any of it. This was the house I grew up in. Imagine it, 2 floors, old wooden stairs, the smell of fresh coffee coming from the kitchen where my mom would make pancakes every Sunday. It was the one place I always felt safe. And when my life began to crumble, I thought at least here, I could put myself back together. At first, I just stayed in the basement, searching for a new job and convincing myself that everything would still work out. But even then, something felt different in the air. Grandma Martha suddenly became someone else. She used to be the type to complain about everything. Her pension was too small, medications were too expensive, life was hard. But just a few weeks after we'd returned, she started going out to evening gatherings for seniors. We were even happy about it, thinking she'd finally found some hobbies. But who would have thought that Trevor would come into her life? Trevor, a 27-year-old charmer with a tan and bright white teeth. His worn-out sneakers immediately clashed with our old but neat living room. He started coming over almost daily. At first, he was just helping Martha with groceries, but by the end of the week, he was already staying over. I remember that first evening we all sat at the dinner table. Trevor was talking about how he's into spiritual practices, and how life is a flow of energy that you just need to let go. All the while, Grandma was beaming like a light bulb. It felt like I was sitting next to a completely different person. At first, I tried talking to her. I asked her to slow down, to be careful. She brushed me off, saying, "You're just jealous that I'm happy and you're not." Trevor was already taking her to restaurants she could never afford on her own and giving her gifts, all with her own money, of course. I watched as my parents held back, not wanting to make things worse. But everything was spiraling out of our control. The final blow came one morning in June. I woke up to hear my dad yelling in the kitchen. "Are you out of your mind?" he shouted, holding some papers in his hand. Turns out, 2 days prior, Grandma had signed a will transferring the house to Trevor. And it wasn't some future bequest, the documents went into effect immediately. Another surprise detail: Trevor was demanding that we vacate the house within a week. Grandma assured us that this was best for everyone, that now she could finally live. I felt my chest tighten with anger and helplessness. Reddit comments user 1234. "This is insane. Your grandma's been completely duped. But how do you fight something like this? Legally, it seems almost hopeless." Sarah_wonders. "I'm so sorry for you. I lost my home over family conflicts too. I hope you can find a way through this, but it's a tough road." Guilty Pleasure 01. Wow, this Trevor guy is a master manipulator. Why do people always prey on the trust of the elderly? It's disgusting. That morning, I sat in the kitchen, unable to accept the reality. A storm had begun outside, as if even the sky pitied our situation. Time seemed to freeze. I couldn't believe this was happening, that our grandma, who had always cared for us, had thrown us out onto the street for some random lover. And the worst part? There was nothing we could do. It was June 15th when we received the official notice to leave the house by June 22nd. Trevor wasted no time. While we were still reeling from the news about the signed will, he was already ordering new furniture and announced that he wanted to bring the house to life. It all felt like a horrible dream that we couldn't wake up from. My parents tried to stay calm, but I saw panic in their eyes. My dad, George, couldn't find the words when he realized our keys no longer fit the locks. We were powerless. Grandma had willingly signed everything over, and now she had nothing left but the empty promises of a young guy who didn't even bother to hide his disdain for us. Every night I woke up at 3 a.m., my chest clenched as if an invisible hand was suffocating me. I pictured myself dragging boxes of my belongings through the rain, searching for a new place to stay. What about my future plans? I'd lost everything: hope for a new job, financial stability, and even the emotional security that this house had provided since childhood. By day, I was looking for rental options, but Pittsburgh's prices were astronomical. A 2-bedroom apartment was no less than $1,200 a month, something we couldn't afford after all the expenses for a lawyer we hired to contest the will. But after the first consultation, the lawyer bluntly told us, "The chances are nearly zero." The will was signed with full awareness and consent from Martha. That same evening, after a grim conversation with the lawyer, we tried one last time to talk to Grandma. But it was pointless. She didn't want to listen to us and just kept saying, "You don't understand. I finally feel happy." Martha looked like she was in a trance. She didn't see our tears, our despair, or our fear. My relationship with her, which was once warm and close, shattered in a moment. Trevor sat beside her with a smug grin. I wanted to hit him, but I knew it wouldn't change anything. Instead, he just added fuel to the fire. "Enough drama, kid. Accept it like an adult." His calmness drove me insane. My whole life was falling apart in front of me, and he didn't even bother to hide his arrogance. Reddit comments sad_penguin92. "This is just brutal. How can you lose your home so easily? It's like a nightmare that you can't wake up from. Not your hero." I think this isn't just about money or the house. It's about losing control over your life. And you're not alone in this. Holy guacamole. Stories like this happen way too often. Older people trust strangers, and family members are left with nothing. I was sitting on a cardboard box in the middle of the living room, staring at walls that soon would no longer be ours. It was 2:47 a.m., and I couldn't sleep. One thought kept looping in my mind: what next? An empty house and despair. June 21st. Just one day before we were supposed to leave the house for good. The evening passed in somber silence. We packed our things, knowing our time was nearly up. The weather outside was brutally hot, around 35 degrees, but that was the last thing on our minds. My parents had already found temporary housing in a motel on the edge of town, but I still didn't know where to go. Friends and acquaintances were going through their own struggles, so I wasn't counting on any help. I stood in my empty room, the one that had once been mine, staring at the ceiling as if I could burn each corner into my memory. The old posters from my childhood, marks from the shelves on the walls, the worn lamp by the bed, all of it was about to vanish. And what hurt the most was that Grandma showed no sign of remorse. She didn't even come to say goodbye. She was probably with Trevor at some restaurant, enjoying her new life. Our last hope was our attorney. We filed an emergency lawsuit to void the will, hoping to at least delay the eviction. But the court scheduled the hearing for 3 months from now. This meant that, by then, Trevor would already have full ownership of the house and could do whatever he wanted with it. I even tried to meet with Grandma in private, thinking that if we talked alone, she might change her mind. But when I went to the restaurant where they were, Trevor just smiled at me and said, "Sorry, man, but she made her choice. Deal with it." Grandma didn't say a word. She just sat there with a stony expression as if none of this concerned her. That night, I knew we had truly lost her. On June 22nd, we left the house. I remember turning back from the porch, looking at the door I had walked through so many times with joy. The pain I felt was unbearable. It was as if, with those walls, a part of me had disappeared. One thought passed through my mind. How can you lose a home and not even realize when it happened? Trevor wasted no time changing the locks. A new car appeared in the driveway, and the old family china cabinet ended up on the curb by the trash bins. This was the point of no return. Reddit comments: angry bystander. "This is horrible. I can't even imagine what it's like to lose your home and watch your life being destroyed in front of you. The real deal. This is just incomprehensible. How can people so easily manipulate the elderly? Why are the laws so powerless in cases like this? Ghost Hunter 79. I had a similar situation with my uncle. The people you trust most can destroy your life faster than any enemy. A few weeks later. It's been 3 weeks since we left our home. But honestly, the feeling of loss doesn't go away. It gnaws at me every day, as if I left behind not just a house but a part of myself. Maybe by writing here, I'm not looking for sympathy, but some sort of justification for my miserable state. Because right now, I'm in despair. I don't know how to go on. I'm currently living in a small motel room on the outskirts of Pittsburgh. My parents are staying in the next room. We have an agreement that this is just temporary until we find an apartment. But the temporary is stretching out. The room costs $27 per night, draining our savings quickly, and I still haven't found a job. Every day, I check the job listings and send out resumes, but I hear nothing back. I've sent over 50 applications, even for basic positions like a grocery store cashier or janitor. Rejection after rejection, it's like a constant blow to the back. And I barely have the strength to keep going. Last week, on July 14th, I took a chance and drove by our old house. Why? I don't even know. Maybe I just wanted to see if anything was left of the place that had meant everything to me. But instead of the cozy yard, I saw a construction site. It looked like Trevor had decided to tear down the old part of the house and do a major upgrade. Seeing this felt like a physical blow. Everything I loved was being destroyed and transformed into something foreign, erased from my life. That night, I realized there was no point in clinging to the past anymore. But how do you let go? How do you leave something so important behind without feeling bitter? I began to wonder, is it even worth trusting people at all? If someone as close as your own grandmother can betray you so easily, then who else could turn out to be false? Losing my home and grandma left a deep emotional wound. I can no longer rely on anyone. All those promises of, "We'll figure this out together," turned out to be empty words. Right now, it feels like the hardest part isn't losing the house, but losing the ability to look to the future without fear. The constant weight of uncertainty presses on my chest every morning when I wake up. It's as if each day is just something to get through, not to live. Reddit comments lost and worried. Your words hit hard. Losing a home isn't just about walls and a roof. It's about stability, the past, the feeling of safety. Green Tea 42. I understand. After we lost everything in 2008, it took me years to sleep well again. It'll take time, but you'll find a new path. Silent Rebel. It's really tough when those close to you betray you. But you can still build something new. Believe in that. Even if it feels hopeless right now. After months of endless falling, I realized one thing: either time will beat you, or you'll find the strength to move forward. This isn't a story about miraculous healing, but maybe the first steps towards feeling alive again. Early August. It's been a little over 2 months since we lost our home. Living in the motel has stretched on. It's now our new home. My parents found work. Dad works construction at a local company, and Mom helps out at a cafe at the end of our street. After countless rejections and exhausting searches, I finally got a job, a night attendant at a parking lot in downtown Pittsburgh. It's not much, but it at least lets me feel a bit of control over my life. $11 an hour isn't much, but it's better than nothing. A week ago, on August 7th, I felt for the first time in a long while that I could take a step forward. I finally saved enough for a deposit on a tiny room in a dorm not far from where I work. It means I can leave the motel, and my parents can ease up on their expenses a bit. We don't talk to Grandma anymore. After she ultimately chose Trevor, and our paths diverged, I realized nothing was going to change. She's living her new life, and though it's hard to accept, maybe she's happier there. I've tried countless times to find meaning in what happened, but now I'm beginning to understand. Life often doesn't have the meaning we want it to. The last I heard, she had moved to Florida. Trevor found them a fancy house there. It hurts, but I don't want to waste my life on hate or resentment anymore. Strangely, I even feel some relief. I've realized I can't bring back what was, but I can try to build something new. Now, I'm just trying to take things day by day. Working at the parking lot is lonely. You sit in a booth, listening to the sounds of the street, thinking about your life. The question still haunts me: what did I do wrong? Could I have changed something? But the answer is always the same: no. I couldn't control what happened, no matter how hard I tried. My life has changed forever, and I can't take that back. But now I have a plan: to try to regain my dignity and find stability again. Right now, I'm saving up, aiming for the next stage. Maybe in a year, I'll be able to afford more than a small room. Maybe I'll even regain faith in myself. Reddit comments Rebel Mind. You've already made a huge step. Letting go of hate is a big achievement. Hang in there, life always brings new opportunities. Karma Collector. It's awful to hear what happened to you, but I'm glad you're finding a way forward. Trevor and Grandma, that's their choice. Focus on yourself. Dreamer 42. I went through something similar, and it took me years to recover. But you'll get there, just keep going.